Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about observational studies and experiments in 4.5. Essentially what we're going to be doing is going over all of the vocabulary. More of the vocabulary that haven't yet gotten to. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is confounding. Now, if it seems like this is confusing, you would not be wrong. So the definition for confounding occurs when two variables are associated in such a way that their effects on a response variable cannot be distinguished, meaning that there are too many different outcomes that could possibly lead to a certain conclusion that you can't figure out exactly what explanatory variable led to that response. And so we call that confounding. Okay, now I want to skip a little bit to this one right here. Actually, no, we'll just go in order. The next thing that we have is called a treatment. A treatment is a specific condition applied to the individuals in an experiment. Now, what that means is that a treatment is what is happening to the subject. What is happening to the individuals? What are you studying? What are you doing that is influencing the study? So in an experiment with maybe, let's say that you're trying to see about if caffeine raises heart levels, and you're giving some people coffee and some people giving caffeinated coffee and some people are getting decaffeinated coffee. The treatment would be the coffee with the caffeine. That would be the active ingredient. That would be actively what you are seeking to test. Now, the next thing is that we're going to have are called experimental units. It is the object to which treatments are randomly assigned. So this would be another word for your individuals if they are not humans. Individuals if not humans. That's what you call them. You call them experimental units. Now, please don't go out in the hallway and be like, oh, you're such an experimental unit. Like, that's rude, okay? So whenever you're testing something, and that's something that you are testing or collecting data over is not a human, we call them experimental units. Okay? Now, when they are experimental units, we call them, when the experimental units are humans, we call them subjects. It's kind of like the royal court. We call them subjects. Not sure why, but that's what it is. The next thing is when you have a group used to provide a baseline for comparing the effects of the other treatments. Depending on the purpose for the experiment, there's the answer. This is a control group. Well, that kind of spoiled it. Control group may be given an inactive treatment or an active treatment. So based on what you're trying to figure out, this is the inactive treatment, essentially. You're trying to get a baseline. So if you're trying to measure people's heart rates whenever they get caffeine, this would be the group that doesn't get caffeine. This is just the chill group. They're your baseline study for what typically normally happens if they weren't given a treatment at all. Okay. Now, sometimes in your control groups, you can figure out that people will actually respond to the inactive treatment. This is called the placebo effect. So the placebo effect occurs whenever someone who has been given the inactive treatment starts showing the same results as those who have been given the active treatment. This is a phenomenon that happens. Nobody's quite sure why. So instead of trying to figure out why, we just call it the placebo effect. We say, oh, that's the placebo effect. That's just like giving a kid an M&M and telling them that it will heal their heartache. Okay, they believe it, and so therefore they manifest it into the world, and it is there for all to see. That is called the placebo effect. Okay, now in order to have the placebo effect, you have to have a placebo in your study. A placebo is a treatment that has no active ingredient but is otherwise like the other treatments. So if you're doing a study over testing people's heart rates whenever they are given coffee, caffeinated coffee, and you want to see how they react, but you don't want people who have caffeinated coffee to know that it's caffeinated. You just want to monitor them independently. What you can do is you can kind of split your subjects up and give half of them caffeinated coffee and give the other half decaffeinated coffee. And the group that gets the decaffeinated coffee would be considered your, the decaf coffee would be considered your placebo. It is your inactive ingredient, meaning that it doesn't have what you are looking for. Now the next one is called a double-blind experiment. A double-blind experiment is whenever neither the subjects nor those who interact with them and measure the response variable know which treatment a subject received. So this is neither anyone that is in the subject knows whether they have received the active treatment or the inactive treatment. Similarly, we have what is called a single-blind experiment. And in a single blind experiment, either the subjects don't know which treatment they are receiving, or the people who are interacting with them and measuring the response don't know which subjects are receiving the treatment and which ones are not. So this is whenever one person doesn't know, and you can figure that out because this says single and the other one says double. Now, there is a situation in which both people know. So the people giving the treatment and the people receiving the treatment know who is getting what, and that is called an open study. So in an open study, there are no closed doors. Everybody knows everything, and that is it. Now, whenever you are giving an experiment, there is an experimental hierarchy, and that's kind of what's crossed out right here. In an experimental hierarchy, it starts with the person who designs the experiment. They are on top. They know everything about the experiment. They're the ones who did the simple random sample. They're the ones that selected who was going to get the placebo, who was going to actually get the active treatment. They know everything. Now, from there, the person who knows everything is then going to tell the people who are going to be conducting their survey or their experiment. So they're going to tell the people in the white lab coats what they're doing. So they're going to give information to the person giving the treatments. So these people are kind of your middleman in your hierarchy. And then finally, last but not least, you have your subjects or your experimental units, depending on who your individuals are. So this is kind of a lot of vocab, but that's all Chapter 4 is. So I hope y'all have a great day.